Hmm. Oh, here we go. All right, going live in three, two, one. Well, this is Olivia on Air, episode number 20. Olivia, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. The looks like for the weather here, we're getting just a little bit cooler, but still running the air conditioning on a regular basis. I'm sure where you are, pretty much run the air conditioning all year round anyway, right?
Yeah, sometimes it gets down into the 60s and then we kind of just open the windows. Um, and lately it's been getting cooler here too. So it's like not so unbearable when I try to walk the dogs. Um, but yeah, I think it's like in the 70s today, which is pretty nice.
Hmm. No, of course, the humidity is still there. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's gross.
Yeah. So, well, at least, well, I will say, at least you don't have to deal with the upcoming snow that's probably going to happen whenever. Well, it's periodic. You've been in the DC area, so you know what I'm talking about. Sometimes it's pretty bad. Sometimes it's not bad at all. So hopefully it won't be for me. It won't be too bad. Obviously, you won't have to, you never have to deal with that. I'm trying to think. You're further south, so not even the northern part of Florida really gets snow. That's very rare, and even Atlanta never gets snow. So.
Yeah, I do remember the last few years that I lived in the Northeast. It was like there wasn't really a lot of snow. At least not when it was like supposed to happen. What I mean by that is like when I was a kid, it would be snowing in maybe late October, early November to December, and then January and stuff. So then there would be like snowy holiday seasons, which was really nice. But then as I got older, it started moving to the end of December or early January when it would start snowing, which was really annoying. At least in Maryland, it was really annoying.
You were yeah, you were a little bit yeah, I think where you were was a little bit higher up in the elevation. Maybe that's why you were getting, because I don't remember getting much snow in November on a regular basis. Usually the snow I remember is getting was more or less in, yeah, because I remember like in further west where I'm trying to think of Stanton, which is about 70 miles west of DC, they would often get snow a little bit earlier as well. So that's interesting. Um, the right in DC, I guess because it's a little bit lower, it usually doesn't get the snow until a little bit later than that. So,
Right.
but
That makes sense.
all right. Well, I see you sent me something that was kind of interesting. I would like to bring this on up so everyone can see this. Why don't you describe what this is? This is your food discovery.
Yes, I thought maybe like we could do a little segment that's food discovery because I really like buying new foods at the grocery store. And this one, so I've tried mochi before. I've had mochi quite a few times, but I always get strawberry mochi. And I saw this one and I just impulsively got chocolate banana mochi. I thought it was going to be gross, and it was pretty good. I'm not going to lie. I would rate it out of 10, I would rate it probably a 6. I wouldn't buy it again, but it was pretty good. Um, they come in packs of I think 6. They are overpriced, but it was an impulse buy, so that's my only justification. They're fun. They I think it's a rice gluten dessert. I think it's Japanese. I watched a video on it. Um, and it's like a I think that they didn't usually have it as like a dessert. It would be more of a soup originally. It would be kind of like a rice dumpling. And they would have it on New Year's Day, the Chinese New Year, I think. Let me know if I'm getting this wrong. I just watched a video about it. Um, but yeah, and it's uh basically all the ones that I've eaten are like dessert kind of mochis where the outside is this rice, uh, like a rice gluten sort of sticky dough, and then the inside is ice cream. So
Hmm. I I I'm not even sure what it's called. My mochi. It's I've
I
never
think
even
that's the
heard.
brand.
Oh, okay. So it's like an ice cream. I'm not familiar with this at all. So it's like it says a pillow of ice cream. Is that what it says? A pillowy ice. Is that what that is?
It's like yeah, it's kind of like a dumpling but sweet, and it has ice cream in it.
I see. It says a pillowy and creamy. Oh, that's what it says. Pillowy and creamy. That's what it says. Okay.
It's like yeah, it's just kind of a it's like a dessert dumpling. And
Oh,
you
okay.
just kind of take it out of the package and eat it. And the white powder is flour. I think that the reason why it's like $6 for like rounding up. It's like $6 for a pack of six. It's like I think that it's harder. First of all, it's harder to make because the process seems like extensive, and also it's like maybe they use fresher ingredients or something. They have to, maybe. I don't know.
And as what was they're all three of these are the same. Are they the same? I can't.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Now when I see the word banana and something, I just walk away. So I, but if someone said it was really good, I would probably give it a try, but I'd be very hesitant to think that I would like it. So
See, I like banana laffy taffies, so I feel like that's a good gauge for whether or not you'd like it. If you don't like banana laffy taffies, these don't taste like as artificial or anything, but the banana flavor is there. It's not very intense. It's it's like banana vanilla ice cream with some chocolate in the middle. It's pretty pleasant if you don't hate bananas, but I know some people really dislike bananas, so that's
well,
fair.
I don't dislike bananas themselves. It's usually when bananas are actually put into something. That's when I hate them. It's like the same with like raisins. I can eat raisins, but then if you put them in something, it just makes it kind of gross. So,
That makes sense.
and I'm not a big fan of bananas either, but I don't really hate them. I just want to make that distinction there. So,
Right. Yeah, and then for some people it's like they like bananas but they don't like the artificial flavor. But to me this doesn't really taste artificial. It was like it was just banana-y and chocolatey.
well, I got something when I used to eat a lot of sugary foods. One of the things I would buy every week was a box of Pop Tarts, and I do know that if I saw a new flavor of Pop Tarts come out, I would get that regardless of what it was, just for the heck of it. So, and I always got the frosted Pop Tarts, and I never put them in the toaster either. So I always ate them just. The funny part is I know they're called Pop Tarts because you're supposed to put them in the toaster and they pop up when they're done after they're done heating, but I never did. I just ate them raw, and I didn't really like the ones that didn't have frosting on. They were just a little too dry for me. But I remember getting a wide variety of different kinds of Pop Tarts, and sometimes I'd like them. I'd go back and get more. Other times I wouldn't bother. So
Yeah, I don't think I've ever met anyone that does put them in the toaster. I feel like they're kind of a little more gross. I don't know why. I just feel like they shouldn't be warmed up. I don't know.
I think the ones that don't have the frosting on them, the ones that are plain, I think they might work better in the toaster. But yeah, still, I don't put those in there either. I have a hard time imagining putting the other ones in the toaster. I don't know how that would even work. Seems like they might melt a little bit. I don't know. Maybe it works. I don't know. So
That's true. Yeah. I remember I tried toaster strudel. That would have been a good like new food discovery because there was this toaster strudel that was Mean Girls. Do you know the movie Mean Girls?
no, I do not.
Well,
Maybe-
we should watch that later.
Okay.
For like the next one or something because it's amazing. But it in the movie one of the characters says that her dad invented toaster strudel, and so I think last year Toaster Strudel had like a Mean Girls collaboration where they made literally like the Mean Girls toaster strudel, and it was great. I mean, it didn't taste good, but it was fun. That's for sure.
Oh, that's some girls. Oh, sorry. I typed in, it's funny. I typed in meme girls. And that was the first thing that came up. That was weird. Um, but with so wait, go back for a second. So describe that again. I'm sorry. I was distracted there. This is as far as the was it toaster strudel? Is that what you said?
Yeah, the one of the mean girls was her dad invented toaster strudel, and that's why she was rich. And so they toaster strudel like a year ago. They did a collaboration with Mean Girls and like the movie brand, I guess. And then they came out with these like I think they were like strawberry toaster strudels. Yeah, they were like strawberry toaster strudels or something. They were not that good, but it reminded me of the movie, and so it made me happy.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. I when you said I got to jump in for a second. When you said Mean Girls, I thought you said Meme Girls, and I typed in the word meme the first time. So I that was my mistake. I have not seen this movie, but I do know of this movie. So,
It's very good. It's very iconic.
and that's Lindsay Lohan. Oh, she's the drug addict, isn't she? The
Wait, in the movie?
no, I don't. Not the movie in real life. She's the one that has all those drug problems or something.
I think she used to. I think she's trying to get better now. Like maybe I don't know.
Oh, okay. I do remember seeing her in The Parent Trap. You ever see that one where she plays
Yes,
a dual role? Yeah, I thought that was the first part of it was pretty good, but then the second half of that one was kind of weak. It just kind of weird. So
that's one of my comfort movies. I don't know why. It's just I think it's just growing up watching it was. It's very the way that it's made. I don't know something about it's just very comforting.
the that's a remake from a movie from the 1960s, I think. I don't know.
Yeah, I've
It,
seen that one too. I like both of them.
I don't know if I've seen the earlier one. Which one would you say is better?
Based off of nostalgia alone, it's the newer one, but there's a clear bias there.
Oh,
I'm very biased towards the one with Lindsay Lohan because I just grew up watching it, so I can't really make that judgment.
gotcha, gotcha. So let me get back to this one. So as far as the question of the week, we discussed this before we went live. You want to make our question of the week kind of match this? Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, actually, I'm jumping ahead a second. We should actually look at our results from last week before we do that. So
Okay.
bring that up here. There we go. Do you decorate for Halloween? Let me bring up the results. If so, use kid-friendly cartoonish oh, do you use kid oh, I forgot how it was worded. Do you use kid-friendly cartoonish decor or really scary decor? So we got overwhelmingly 76% with I don't decorate. 11% after that with I don't care. Next we have 5% with scary decorations and a tie with cartoonish decorations and a mix of both. So interesting. Let's go there. Oh, I'll read them in this order. It's actually doesn't really matter this time. There's not very many responses. Sandy Mohan, our regular contributor, says, "I don't decorate." Did we read that one?
I think so.
Yeah, I don't want to reread it if we already read it. So, let's see. Best real decor for Halloween. If I lynched myself and onto a tree,
Jeez.
I'm not sure about that one. I dress up, but I don't decorate. I live in a small apartment, so nobody would see anyway. I think we might have read that one too. Let's see. Halloween does not exist in Serbia. The holiday was replaced by seeing someone by I don't know who. Oh, okay. Doesn't know who. Okay. Indians don't celebrate Halloween. Okay. All right. Well, not quite the response we were looking for, I think. Especially the second one, which was kind of dark there. But yeah, that's I guess it kind of matches with the responses there. I don't decorate, and nobody seems to celebrate Halloween anyway. So I I guess this was geared towards more of an American or North American. Do they? Forgive me for anybody who's living in any other North American country, but I think Canada may. Do they celebrate Halloween in Mexico? I'm not sure.
I don't know either. I am not big on Halloween myself, so I don't really know like the history of it or anything, or like what kind of religion it stems from, because I'm sure it stems from something. But I'm not sure.
Hmm.
I know that Mexico and like Spanish speaking countries, at least a lot of them, I think, have Cinco de Mayo. I mean, not Cinco de Mayo. Yeah, the De los Muertos, like the Day of the Dead,
Oh, okay.
which is, I think that's also in October, but there's like different traditions. There's like a deeper meaning and stuff like that
I
to
didn't.
that one.
That's quite interesting. The Day of the Dead. Have you ever seen the movie Quick Change with Bill Murray?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay, there's a scene where they use that quote. I didn't realize it was actually a holiday. So, but they in the movie it's what uh, I can't remember the actor's name, but a woman comes up screaming that phrase, and when they translate it for them, that's when one of the characters just breaks out crying because he's so. It's a comedy. It's not meant to be serious, but he breaks down crying because he's like the Day of the Dead. He didn't know that that's what it meant, and so it's like it gives like the main characters go, "Oh goodness, we shouldn't have said that." And he just starts crying. You have to see the movie to really fully get the joke, but
Right.
um, I never knew it was actually a holiday. I just thought it was a line from that movie. Now I know more. I learned
Yeah,
something.
it's a. I think I remember learning about it a little bit in one of my like food courses in high school. Um, they make sugar skulls, and there's like a lot of very deep tradition in a lot of the things that they do with the holiday, and it's like I'm pretty sure it's like this appreciation of the dead and like remembering them, and it's like a bittersweet celebration, I think. I'm pretty sure because there's a celebration and there's also like a little bit of the sadness, of course, that comes with remembering the dead. So
Wow, this is pretty cool. I'm going to bring it up here. I typed in sugar
yeah, and
skull.
then yeah, those are the sugar skulls.
Those are pretty cool. I didn't expect them to look so interesting. Wow, that's is that what you remember, or is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
Oh, that's pretty cool. The Mayan cultures in Central America like to use skulls a lot too, so it kind of looks like it's influenced by that a little bit. That's pretty neat. So, and those are all edible, is that right?
I think so, but I don't know if they actually eat them. I think it's more of a offering sort of decoration than like a munching on it kind of snack, you know?
Uh-huh. Those look like they might be edible right there. But yeah, overall, that looks like a lot of work to put into that. That looks almost like a toy, like you go, like something you'd see at like go to a toy store and you see these little things pop up there. That's really cool.
Yeah, they're really cool.
Alrighty. Well, let's bring this back over here. Um, the so yeah, let's go back. We'll type in our question for this week. So, how did you want to phrase our question there?
I wanted to say, do you like trying new foods often?
Mhm. Like, trying there we go.
Yes.
And did you want to have them leave a comment, maybe give an example?
Um, I don't
If
really
not,
have an example. Like, I guess, I don't know. I don't really have an example to offer because it's just buying something new from the grocery store, I guess, or trying something new on like a menu.
right. What I'm saying, do you want me to put that in there? Like maybe they could give like they could comment on what they've tried or something.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Let's see. How should we phrase that? Give an example, maybe. Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Leave a comment. Okay. All right. I guess yes and no, or did you want to phrase that differently?
Um, yeah, I guess yes and no is kind of the only options.
Okay.
Because I know at restaurants, I feel like I'm a little more hesitant to try something new. But at the grocery store, I feel like everything's a little cheaper. And if I don't like it, I can just throw it away. But if I'm at a restaurant and if I try something new and I don't like it, I might have to like tell the waiter that I want something else or something. And that's kind of just like, I don't know, that gives me a little anxiety.
Oh, really? I honestly, I'll try things more often new at a restaurant than I would at the supermarket, most likely. That's interesting. I'm the opposite when it comes to that. So,
That's interesting.
unless it's something I can tell, like I would definitely not like. But I'll try. And I also got to be careful because sometimes I'll be with somebody who wants to make a suggestion, and I'll go. I'll be if it's in those cases, I'll be like, I'm not sure if I really want to do that. And sometimes I've been in situations where they suggest something that's really gross. So, and then I get really, I don't tell the waiter to take it back though, but I just like, why did I follow their advice? I should have just stuck with what I usually have. Okay, does that look good?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just making sure I proofread and it looks okay. Okay, cool. All righty, we'll come back to that one. All right. So as far as any other, is there anything else you'd like to describe for this topic? Because you want to make this like a regular feature, right?
I want to. There might be some weeks when I forget to get something new from the grocery store, but I kind of I do it every week because I've been going down the international foods aisle and they have some stuff from like England and Australia and stuff like that, and of course like other countries, just like a bunch of cool stuff. I recently tried Jamie Dodgers for the first time. They're delicious.
Jamie Dodgers. Interesting. I've never even heard of that one. Is that a
They're
can?
from England. It's the way that it's spelled is Jammie space Dodgers, I think.
Okay.
They're so good, and it's like yes, they're so cute. They have the little heart, and that's the exact packaging. They're delicious. They're like raspberry, and they're adorable. It's great. It's like they're so fun.
I've never heard of an international aisle. What supermarket do you go to that has them?
Publix. I go to Publix. I think when I went to Giant, which is like the Maryland grocery store, I think,
Mhm.
um, they had an international foods aisle. At least the one that I went to, but I never really like got anything from there. And then I don't know. When I came here, I just started finding things in the grocery store that are new and fun. So
Interesting. There we got the for those who are true British fans, you have the Doctor Who police box in the background. So I've never heard that. That's pretty cool. It looks the way you're describing it and the way it looks. I think I've tasted something that might be similar to that, but I'm not sure. I'd have to actually taste it myself to actually realize. It looks like is it like an Oreo cookie where sometimes people eat the center out first? It looks like the middle is missing there.
I don't think you can. Maybe some people can, but they're pretty stuck together. Um, I don't really know how you would do that. That kind of looks like someone just cut out the middle with like an X-Acto knife and took a picture of it.
Oh, okay.
I don't really think that you can take them apart because it's like the jam in between is just so. It's like it's not. I don't know. I don't think you can like peel it apart. You know.
Hmm. I don't think I've ever. I can't think of any international kind of food or candies that I've liked. Nothing's coming to mind. I guess I'm just stuck in the old United States when it comes to my food cravings. I would if my diet would allow it, I would definitely try these just to see what they're like. So
Yeah, if anyone sees them in the grocery store, just get them without even thinking about it. They're so good. They're a little on the pricey side because they're imported, but it's worth it.
yeah,
They're like $4, so it's not like too bad, but
$4 and you get like I guess like 4 or 8. Is that right?
8. Yeah.
8 of them. Okay, it is a little pricey there for 8 of them. So alrighty, cool. Oh well, and also, would you suggest for anybody like to like I guess we'll do that on the questions. We'll see if anyone wants to make their own suggestions as to what if anyone wants to leave in the comments or on the poll. If you want to ask, if you want to leave a suggestion on something that we could try, or maybe any viewers could try, we could do that as well. I guess so.
That's true. If I can find it in a grocery store in America, then I can probably try it. Keep in mind I'm vegan. I mean vegetarian.
I usually go to Shoppers Food Warehouse, so I don't remember seeing an international aisle. They probably do. I just don't notice it. But then again, I've been kind of lazy for the past year and a half. I've only gone to the supermarket once during that period of time, and I usually have the people from Instacart deliver the food for me. So I will say this: I don't know if I told you this, but I went shopping in September last month for the first time, and I when I checked out did I tell you this story?
I don't think so.
I checked out the guy was checking my food out. I was all ready to go, and as I walked away, I looked at him and said I hadn't been shopping since May of last year. He looked at me and shrugged his shoulders and walked away. So he he definitely did not give a damn about what I had to say. So I was just like, okay, and I just walked out of the store. But I thought I'd share that long story with you. The interesting thing was I had not been there in so long, but nothing had changed. It looked exactly the same. I was expecting to see maybe things in certain or nobody. There was no scare. People weren't running around scared or anything. I do remember before I stopped shopping, there were people scared to be around other people, but it seemed like everyone was just back to normal as far as where I was. So no one was really scared of any pandemic or anything. It was just the only thing they still had the sneeze, if you call them the sneeze guards at the cash registers, but that was about it. So
Yeah. Usually I don't go to the grocery store at like a busy time, so I don't it's not like I'm in the aisle with other people or anything, which is nice. So I feel like everyone's like, well, this is kind of like a easy space to be in. Like the store is kind of an easier space to be in because hopefully, you're not in there when it's really crowded and there's a lot of people around you or anything like that.
yeah.
Sometimes it's unavoidable, but
Yeah, the mentality where I am at is, and I might have said this before, when they were shutting everything down at the beginning of last year, and I was still doing my shopping on a regular basis, the people that were at that supermarket, the same store, not necessarily the same people I saw that night, but a year and a half ago, their attitude was, we don't really care. And that's the gentleman. There's a handful of customers were like terrified. Like one woman in front of me was wearing plastic gloves. She was wearing like plastic all over her face and everything. And it's like I walked up and started loading my food up onto the conveyor belt, and she started yelling at me. It's like, oh my goodness, I just backed off. I was like, she didn't want to be close to me at all. I was like, okay, whatever. So, and the cashier just looked at me like I didn't like, he could tell he and I were like, no, it wasn't. We didn't think it was that big of a deal, but she was like terrified. It was like so bizarre. So, but I didn't experience any of that when I went this past September. So
yeah, I really like going to the grocery store. I think I started like finding more um, interesting food when I started cooking more, like with soup and stuff. Um, because a lot of the ingredients that I use were from the international food aisle just because they're like really like savory and flavorful and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I don't really have
no
any like
stories.
stories of people being weird.
Yeah. Alrighty, well, let's go. We're gonna bring this back now. But those Jimmy Dodgers, they look good. So if I see them, maybe I'll sneak some. Maybe I'll take a little bite of one. I know I'm not supposed to eat certain foods like that, but if it's a little bit, I don't think it'll hurt me that much. So maybe I'll try it out. To see what it's like. So, if I see them, I like I said, Shoppers Food Warehouse is not known for. I could Instacart is usually they could list everything. I could type it out and see if they have it. Maybe I'll just have the person pick it up next time for me. So.
They're just so adorable. They have the little hearts on the inside, and I mean, the packaging is so cute. They're great. That
This
looks like homemade ones.
Yeah, that looks like something I've had more close to what I've had in the past. Like someone like going to a party or something, like a Christmas party, and people were having those out like little things. I don't know if it's the same thing or not, but that
Yeah. For Christmas, me and my mom always make thumbprint cookies, and you can put jam in those, and they look kind of like that. So that might be what it was. Um, we do jam or chocolate in the thumbprint cookies. So
okay. Maybe that's what I did. Does it taste like those? Does it taste similar to those, or
kind of, but not as like there's not a heart on them, so it doesn't taste as good.
is the heart make it the way you say it? It sounds like the heart is what makes it better.
It is. It is. I can't replicate that with my phone, so
Okay. Cool. Alrighty. Well, for this week's movie, we watched Blade Runner. So, and Blade Runner, this is something you had never seen before. Is that right?
Correct.
And I do remember talking to you about it, and you had said something to the effect that you thought this was some sort of action adventure movie, right?
Yeah, solely based on the name because I had never seen any of the pictures or anything for it. I really just thought it was from the name. I was like, well, it's Blade and Runner, so it sounds like there's going to be a lot of action and it's going to be one of those like sci-fi action movies from the 80s. But
The
I was wrong.
Oh, that is funny though. I think I might have said something to you also as well that there have been at least three movies where I've made that mistake. One of them being Fight Club, the other being Starship Troopers, and I can't remember what the third one was if there was, but I made that kind of judgment as well. I thought Fight Club was going to be a movie about fighting and kickboxing, and I thought it was going to be stupid, but it was actually a lot more than that. I don't know. Have you ever seen Fight Club?
I have not.
Okay, Fight Club is very deep. It's a very deep movie. It's not the fighting is there, but it's not what the focus of the movie is about. Um, the other one is Starship Troopers. I thought that was going to be a silly space action movie where they blow things up, and it turns out that it was a satire on war. It was actually completely different than what I expected. It blew me away how good it was. And I both of those movies I refused to watch when they first came out, and I watched them like 10 years later. I was like, oh my goodness, I could have watched these 10 years earlier and got a good I saw a good movie and I didn't realize how good they were. So, um, based of
Yeah, they say don't judge a book by its cover, but I kind of do that with movies and books, like all the time.
and the books, that's interesting. You bring up books because some of those books are just artists. Some of those images don't really, sometimes don't even match what's in the book. If I'm not mistaken, sometimes like novels. You ever seen that?
Yeah, I feel like um I don't know, if a book cover doesn't interest me or something, I don't know, I just like I don't pick it up and I don't find out that it doesn't match what's inside the book. I don't know.
Mm. As far as the movie that you saw, you said you saw what was the version you said? Because
I saw the
before you said
Final Cut one,
the final, go ahead.
which a few websites said was about the same as the director's cut, and then some other ones said that they were different. So I don't know.
Okay. What I was going to say is that there's apparently there's a different number, different sources on the internet say different numbers. There's at least five different versions of the movie, from what I've understood. Now, I don't know all the details. I might get some of these things wrong, but the first version was a preview that was only shown once and never shown again, and it was at a theater somewhere. I don't know. The second one is the original release, and there's actually like two versions of that. It was the original this version is considered the theatrical release, and it has a narration that's done by Harrison Ford. And it was supposedly, if I get some of these facts wrong, please let me know. But I don't mean to get anything wrong. Basically, Harrison Ford narrates several key points in the movie because studio executives thought that the audience was not going to understand what was going on, so they had him read basically like exposition lines, so that so that you could understand what was going. Because they felt too many people would be lost in the movie if those weren't there. So, the version that you saw, which was the final cut, is the last version that was ever made. And by then, those lines have been removed. So there's no narration by Harrison Ford in that version. And a lot of people have said that they don't like those. They thought it was a good idea to remove them. I personally thought they were okay. I never had any problem with them. I seem to be one of the rare exceptions to that. But I read the novel. That's one of the I've only read four novels in my life, and that's the novel was written by Philip K. Dick called "Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep?" And one of the things I remember is some of the lines that Harrison Ford read were actually from the novel. So I thought it was kind of cool that they actually went out and got lines from the novel and inserted them into the movie like that. So it gives a perspective that's kind of different when you're watching a movie. If you hear if you hear the narration of the book being read, it kind of like makes it more like the novel in some ways. And so I thought that was kind of interesting. But almost everybody I've seen says they hate the narration and they're glad that they removed it. So, as far as before we go any further, did you get confused at all by the movie? Did you think you needed some sort of exposition or narration to help you along?
The whole time, I'm not gonna lie, I thought it was so cool to see, and but I really should have watched like the original version first or something because I was so confused as to what was going on. I thought it was so cool to see all the like the visuals, but when it jumped from scene to scene, it felt like I wasn't being told something. Obviously, because the narration was cut. Now that I know that, but I just felt like I was missing something. Like there was like I don't know, there's some sort of secret that I should have understood, but like I just didn't get it. I don't know. Every scene was like so different, I feel like, and I don't know. I just didn't really follow it very well.
Okay. The other thing that's different about the version you saw versus the original one is, and by the way, you said that the this is similar to the director's cut. From what I understand, the director's this is where it gets kind of weird. I don't fully understand this at all. Well, I understand partially. I do understand it, but not fully understand it. But basically, there's a version called the director's cut, which is different than the final cut, and it is similar. But apparently, what happened was Ridley Scott, who's the director of this movie, did not authorize the director's cut, even though he was the director. So I don't understand how that works. So apparently, when it was released, he's disowned it, so to speak, and so that's when they came out and came back and said, okay, we'll come up with another version, and that was called the final cut. Like I said, there's at least some places say there's at least 7 or 8 versions of the movie. I don't know. It's the number keeps on jumping. The highest I've seen is 8 versions. But at the very least, there are right now there are 3 definitive versions that you can watch: the original version, the director's cut, and the final cut. As far as the other ones that are out there, I don't know if you can actually see them anywhere, so I can't comment on that. So, but
That's interesting. I've never heard of that with like a movie. There being so many different variations.
yeah, and the main difference is the director's cut and the final cut were basically released about 10 years after the original, around 1992. And the difference was, there's a scene. I'll go ahead and bring this up here so we can look at it while we're talking about it. There's a scene where Deckard, played by Harrison Ford, dreams about a unicorn. Do you remember that scene?
Yeah, very confusing.
Yeah, that scene was not in the original theatrical release. I'm not sure if I'll be able to find it. But basically, what that implied was, he has the dream about the unicorn, and later on, at the very end of the movie, there's a James Edward Olmos, the other. Do you know who that is?
Wait, which one?
James Edward Olmos, the actor. Do you know who that is? He's the
No.
guy. He played the other officer, the guy he was riding around with, who he spoke Spanish, Japanese, a mix of 3 different languages.
Right.
And he was the officer that was with him. Um, Basically, he kept on creating these little origami, little paper things. You saw those in the movie.
Yeah.
Okay, at the very end, he creates a an origami of a unicorn, and it's heavily implied. There it is, right there. That's the unicorn. That's the one that he picks up. It's heavily implied that because he had a dream about a unicorn, that perhaps Deckard himself is actually a replicant, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. I thought that was a deer. I don't know why.
Oh, okay. So, and the this is where I was telling you about this before we went live, that there's a controversy about this movie. The controversy is Deckard a replicant or is he human? Because in the original version of the movie that went out that lasted for 10 years, from 82 to about 92, there was absolutely no indication that Deckard was a replicant. He was always considered to be human. But when they released the director's cut and the final cut, this new implication came out. Well, is he human or is he a replicant? So the controversy came around because there's a controversy because of it, because Ridley Scott wanted everyone to think that he was a replicant, but Harrison Ford came out and said absolutely no, Deckard was not a replicant. So that's the controversy with this movie, and this movie has a very loyal fan base, and so it's divided as to whether or not he is or is not a replicant in this movie now.
Right. Well, I feel like that's really hard to say, just because what if the other like agent guy, I don't know. I actually don't know because isn't it that they can, with the newer replicants, they can put memories in their brains and stuff like that. So he wouldn't know whether he was a replicant or not. And since it's really only from um, Harrison Ford's point of view, uh, there's kind of no other way we can know. Maybe it's just a coincidence.
It's basically, I'm glad you put it like that, because basically it's left up to the viewer's interpretation. It's left up to you to decide what you think it is. It's not, there's no actual answer, is basically what it is right now. So
Right.
and so if you think it is, it is. It's funny because my dad is very adamant that ever since that was revealed, that he now thinks that, because he's a big fan of the movie, that yeah, he's on the side that yeah, Deckard is a replicant. So
Right. Yeah. I mean, why would the agent be working with him if he was a replicant?
right. It's and it the I like I said, I read the book and the novel. In the novel, the character Deckard, there's a lot of differences. In fact, the book is radically different than the movie in a lot of ways. The only similarities are basically of Deckard, and just in the book he's actually married to another, and the wife is actually completely written out of the movie, obviously. And there are, just like in the movie, there are 6 replicants, but in the movie 2 of them are killed off quickly. You don't actually see them get killed, they just mention them. So there's only he only has to deal with 4 of them. And the Roy Batty, which is the head of essentially the head of the replicants, he's also married as well. He's one of the other 6 replicants is his wife. So, and in the novel, there are 2 chapters, and I don't remember because it's been a while since I actually read this, but there were 2 chapters in which Deckard is captured by a rogue group of replicants who live this in the movie, and I'm sorry, in the book, it's in San Francisco, not Los Angeles. There's a rogue group of replicants that live in a section of San Francisco that nobody knows about because the city is so huge that there are sections where people don't even know exist because it's just endless city. It's so huge. He's basically captured by them, and he's convinced for 2 chapters that he is actually a replicant himself. And they don't use the replicant in the book. It's actually called android in the book. But after about 2 chapters, it's determined no, he's not an android, and so that question is actually put to rest. But it's almost like they went to the novel and said there's a part of the book where he's like questioning whether or not he himself is a replicant, and they decided to add that to the movie. Maybe, I don't know. So but in the book, he's definitely this. He is not a replicant or an android, whatever you want to call it, in any way. And
Right.
the interesting thing about the whole controversy, from what I've heard, I don't have any source to back this up, is that Ridley Scott, the director, when he came out with his version of the movie, when he added this little tease, or this little, I don't know if you call it a tease, but this little idea that he was a replicant, nobody else had actually even heard of this. This was something he put in there on his own 10 years after the movie came out. So a lot of people were actually surprised. It just came out of nowhere. He just decided to add this to the movie for apparently no reason. There was no indication at all up till that point that that was even an idea for the movie. He just added it on his own. So that's another reason why there's a controversy for the fan base. It's like, you for 10 years the movie was out, there was no question, and all of a sudden he just comes out with a new version and says, oh, guess what, all along it was supposed to be like this, but it was never talked about before. So
Yeah, I can see how that would enrage some, especially if you were a big fan and you thought you knew a lot about it, and then like a wrench is thrown in the works. Also, I did not know it was in San Francisco.
oh well, yeah, the book was, I'm sorry, the book is in San Francisco, the movie's in Los Angeles. So
Oh, I didn't know that either.
okay, yeah, if you watch at the very beginning, I think they say that. Well, it's there, it is. So
Oh,
yeah, yeah, November night 2019. So it's just a couple years ago. I didn't know it's really changed since then. The I will say this has nothing to do with the the movie itself, but when I was younger, movies were never shown in widescreen on television. So when this was released on TV for the first time I ever saw this, I only saw half the movie. So you're only, because this would only fit on half the screen, so half of it was blocked out. So I'm not Gene Siskel, Roger Ebert, the movie critic, actually gave an example of as to why widescreen was so important, and he used Blade Runner as an example. And I remember it very clearly. He showed what the for the normal aspect ratio was for a television set, and he showed the difference by using this particular scene right here, that one. He showed this scene and how different it was watching the whole screen versus only seeing half of the screen. And that was my first experience under realizing how important it is to see the entire movie. Up until then, I really didn't understand that there was a difference, and it was that it was, I don't remember what year that was, but it was like, wow, that's really cool. And shortly after, slowly but surely after that, they started releasing more and more movies in their proper aspect ratio. They didn't cut them down to size.
That's good. Yeah, I feel like it's very important because there's a lot of like, I think not all directors in movies and shows and stuff, but for some, they really use every piece of the space that they have on the screen. And like, you might not notice that you notice something, but maybe subconsciously you see something out of the corner of your eye in parts of the screen that are important for how you kind of view the movie, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
So that's a good development.
Yeah, and yeah, it's and since then, ever since I learned that, I was like, wow. And then when I did learn it, I didn't realize that there were also different aspect ratios for movies. This is done in widescreen, and there are different versions of widescreen as well. So they're not all the same. For a long time, I thought that all movies were being cut in half, but it turned out not. Some of them were being shot in 35 millimeter, which you were still seeing most of the screen, just not as bad as say Blade Runner, which was reduced to half the screen. So. At 35 millimeter, you get a little bit removed off, but it wasn't as bad. It's more like watching a modern TV. It's more like modern TVs are a 16:9 aspect ratio, which is similar to what 35 millimeter is. So
Hmm.
the what was the other? Oh, at the other thing that's different with the end of this movie, the final cut, is as they walk off, you don't know what happens to them. So how did you feel about the end of the movie here? I'm just curious when they walk off together.
Um, Interesting.
Okay,
I don't know. I didn't really have any strong feelings because I didn't really understand most of it. And for I don't know, it didn't. I feel like the movie for the whole time. Maybe that's just me. Maybe it's because there was no narration to describe what was going on, but I didn't like care that much about the characters. I wasn't very invested in them. I felt like I don't know. I just wasn't. They didn't. The movie didn't make me
what
interested in their lives or anything.
Gotcha. Well, what I meant was, what did you think was happening? I guess is what I felt. What at the very end
Oh,
here, going off together,
well,
you see them going off, and it just cuts off right there. That's where the movie ends, right there. Does it seem like it's like the basic idea is you don't know what's going to happen to these two? Are they going to survive? Is there going to be something that happens to them? That's the kind of feeling that you're left with. What happens to them? It's left up in the air. Does that make
yeah.
sense? Okay. The what happens in the original movie as there's a narration, another narration, and what happens is you see them driving off together in a very sunny area because the movie is very dark except for like the last like couple of minutes of the original movie. They're driving off into the mountains in a car, and they're going to be living off together in a happy little life together, and they have a happy ending. So a lot of people hated that, so that's why Ridley Scott removed that ending. So this ending gives you a little bit of a darker ending. You're like, whatever, you don't know what happens to them, but if you've seen the original one, you know that they're driving off in a car, and it's like, they're smiling and they're happy and they're going to live a happy life together. So that whole thing was taken out.
That's interesting. I mean, yeah, that kind of makes sense why it was taken out because isn't she only going to live like 4 years or maybe 3 years?
The narration. That's that's another reason why I need to hear the narration, because as Deckard, as the movie is wrapping up, he says something to the effect that that she doesn't have a life expectancy. Her life is different. So that's listed in one of the narrations that was removed from the movie. So you don't know that. You don't know how long she's
Oh.
going to live. So it's in the original narration, it's implied that she may live like a normal life forever. So
Oh, well, the that other agent guy, he was like, it's a shame she won't live, but then again, who does?
Right.
The one that left the unicorn. So I thought maybe that that was
That's
that.
from my interpretation of that. That's James Edward almost, by the way. That's the actor I was telling you about. Um, that when he says that, there he is, right there.
Yeah.
He when he says that, my interpretation was that he was going to kill her. He was going there to kill her himself. That's what and that's why the unicorn was there. That's the origami was there because he was there to kill her, and he decided not to. So the implication was that he said that so because he was going to kill her, and then when Harrison Ford arrives, Deckard arrives, he sees the origami there, so he knows that he's there, so he decided to let her live after all. So that line was kind of irrelevant after all. That's my interpretation. So
Oh, I like that line. I thought, I mean, like, why would he not, though? Why would he change his mind? I didn't really know enough about the character for him to change his mind.
yeah, it's kind of left in the air. So it's I'm not exactly sure either, to be honest. So I don't, but um, he was in this one in the narration. It's explained that he's also kind of like in competition with Deckard in some ways. So it's almost like they have a rivalry of sorts. But I don't know. It's kind of a contradiction to the whole thing because he's basically going there to in a sense to kill her, but he doesn't. So he lets her live. So that I guess Deckard and her can live happily ever after. I guess I don't know. I'm not sure.
Oh.
So yeah, you got me on that one.
Yeah, no, I don't know either. I mean, doesn't really make sense why. Maybe the door was locked and he couldn't get in.
Mhm. And by the way, do you know who James Edward Olmos is? By the way,
I do not.
okay, he's a pretty much well-known actor. He was in the TV show Miami Vice. Did you ever watch that show?
I've heard of it.
Okay, he played the lieutenant, the chief of the police, so to speak. I think it was one of the higher positions, and he was also in the TV show Battlestar Galactica. He played the commander. The commander's name, which was Commander Adama. And the funny part is, everybody, including myself, whenever I watch this movie and I watch him in that TV show, he looks so radically different. It's like, whoa, is that the same person? So he just aged so radically different. He's put on a little bit of weight. I'm not mocking him for putting on weight or anything, but it's just such a radical difference. It doesn't look like the same person at all. But those are the two things I can think of him. Well, this included uh, this movie, Battlestar Galactica, and Miami Vice are the three things he's probably known the best for.
Oh.
So if you ever see him in any of those, you'll see he looks more similar in Miami Vice because that came out about the same time, and he speaks English without an accent at all. So in this movie, he has a very strong accent. In both of the other ones, he does not. So I know he does in real life. He does speak fluent Spanish, so he can jump back and forth. But when he speaks English, you can't tell that that he has an accent. It's very very fluent, so it sounds like it's very natural to him. So it's also you look at it, it's like how different he actually is. If you get a chance, you'll type it in there and take a look and see what I'm talking about. It's just so funny to see how different he's changed over the years.
Right. He looked like a wise old man.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Not like
Interesting.
old, but like older.
Gotcha. Now
That's
the other
the
thing.
vibe that I get anyway.
Oh, gotcha. The other thing I found interesting. I don't know if you know that, but there is a sequel to this movie as well. Did you know that?
I one of the articles that I read for like or skimmed for if what was it if the final cut and the director's cut are the same, said that, or I guess the title was which Blade Runner movie should I watch before watching one of the sequels. So I do know it,
Okay.
but only from that.
Did you do you want me to would you mind if I spoiled anything, or did you want me to keep that a secret in case you wanted to see that movie?
You can spoil.
Okay. The In that movie, apparently from what I understand, the woman Sean Young, who plays the replicant that Harrison Ford basically falls in love with in this, um she Harrison Ford and her did not get along apparently when they made this movie, and they actually hated each other, which is kind of funny because the characters are in love in this one. The In the second movie, she was they hated because Harrison Ford has a much more stronger presence, they wrote her character completely out of the second movie, almost completely out of it. In fact, they killed her off. So the
Jeez.
and from what I understand, I could be wrong in this. It was basically because they just don't like each other. So,
Wow.
and there's even a clip that came out a few years before the second movie came out where Sean Young is on stage and she's talking about, watch it. They're going to write me out of the movie. You'll see. And then sure enough, they did. So, the interesting thing though about the second movie is that I watched it only once. I'm not really a big fan of it. I didn't understand what was going on throughout the movie. So maybe that one needed some narration for me. But there is a scene where she is actually in it. They used a computer generated image, a CGI version of her. So I assume they had to get her permission to do that, obviously. So it wasn't actually her. It was just a CGI version of her. It was just like she looked like in this movie. So
That's weird.
yeah.
I mean, it makes sense, but it's a little weird. I think this is kind of well known. But in the movie Dirty Dancing, I don't know if you've seen it.
Oh, yes, I've seen it. I like that movie.
The main characters, Jennifer Grey, the one played by Jennifer Grey and Patrick Swayze, they didn't like each other when they were filming it either.
Oh, really?
So, apparently that's kind of common. They really like faked chemistry very well, but apparently Patrick Swayze and Jennifer Grey didn't really like each other.
That's pretty funny. I didn't know that one. Yeah, because they did definitely pull it off pretty well. I would never have known that if you hadn't told me that. So
I did read it in a magazine when I was a teenager, so the level of truth there might not be very high, but let me look it up now, actually.
Okay. While you're doing that, I'm going to play a small scene. I'm going to do this very carefully so we don't get a copyright, so you can hear what the narration sounds like. I don't know if this is queued up or not, so let me just go and play it. Okay. Oh, and by the way, all these Asian culture references in the movie it's apparently, I don't know all the details, but apparently Ridley Scott wanted the movie to make a statement that Eastern culture had taken over the West, and that's why you're seeing so many Asian references in this. So, and they constantly make references to Offworld, and that's also in the book. They don't really they don't give exact details as to what's going on in the Offworld in this one. So, I can't really give you reasons why in the book in the movie they're there. So it's just in the book it was just basically colonization. Okay, here's a scene right here. Tell me if you can't hear this. Can you hear that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, let me back it up a little bit. Okay. Oh, sorry. I thought there was a line there. Yeah, I think this is where it is right here.
Ties for killers in a newspaper. That was my profession. Ex-cop. Ex-Blade Runner. Ex-killer.
So that's what let's give you a sample of what the narration actually sounds like. So.
That would have helped me a lot. Maybe it's like, maybe people hate it once they've watched it with the narration already because they know what's going on and they feel like maybe it's like patronizing or something to have their hand held through the movie. But for people who haven't seen it before, I would recommend watching it with the narration the first time, or at least, well, no, it might be more annoying to watch it with someone who knows it already and have them pause it and explain it. That would probably be way more annoying. So just, watch it with the narration first and then, watch the other one.
That makes sense because, like I said, the first time I saw it was with the narration. So, and it never, when they took it out, I was actually kind of confused. I was like, it didn't seem like it was that, it didn't seem to make any, dumb it down for me. And it just seemed fine. It just seemed normal, but I don't know.
Yeah. So I found this article by Honey Celebrity. It says, here we go. So a few years before filming Dirty Dancing, they both starred in Red Dawn.
Oh, that's right. She was in there, wasn't she? Yeah, that's a weird movie. Go ahead. I forgot she was in that one. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I guess during filming that movie, there was tension between Gray and Swayze because he reportedly was ordering everyone around and she couldn't stand him. And so a few years later, when Gray was offered a role in Dirty Dancing, they offered an audition to Swayze, and Gray was hesitant to do a screen test with him after her experience on Red Dawn. And so, yeah, I guess it was just a little tension between them the whole time, I think. I guess they got along okay with Dirty Dancing, but there was no point where they were close friends.
Interesting. Okay. That's and it remained like that even all the way through the end of the production of the second movie.
I suppose so. I guess it says that there was no point where they were close friends, and also there was a little tension through like most, if not all, of the filming. Probably just because that first experience with each other was like icky.
Hmm.
I think there's a mosquito on my wall.
I can is it gonna get it?
No, I'm just staring at it and making sure it doesn't come near me.
Oh, okay. Here I can play you a short bit of the original ending here, so you can see what it looks like. I don't want to get too much here. So the scene the scene that what they're doing is they're driving through the mountains. Have you ever seen the original movie The Shining from 1980 by chance?
No.
Okay, in that movie that takes place in the mountains, and they're driving to a resort that's very secluded in the mountains. What happens in this movie? Blade Runners actually took a scene from that movie to show them driving into the mountains. So when they, here's them driving off into Happy Land together. We live happy.
A long time.
Thought I did.
So this is the happy ending. So I just want to give you a glimpse of what it was like. So they go off into the mountains, and if you go further, you should see oh, here it is. Yeah, this is where they're driving. You can see them driving off into that. This scene is actually from the movie The Shining. So they lifted that. I don't know if it's actually a scene that was from the movie or if it was like footage that they just didn't use in the movie, but it's actually from The Shining regardless in some way. So
interesting.
So they have this little happy ending, and they go off to live in the mountains somewhere by themselves.
Yeah, I don't think I would have liked that ending as much. I liked how it was mysterious and dark the whole time, because this would have been like, I don't know, it just kind of seemed too bright and happy for how the movie went.
Right. I agree. It's not. I didn't really care about the ending so much. I just thought it was kind of silly to remove, obviously, the narration. I think that was pretty stupid. So not stupid, just kind of. It's like you said, you didn't fully understand it. You probably would have understood it better if it was there. So
yeah, I feel like removing the narration and making a separate movie, like I feel like that was fine, but I definitely think people should watch the original one with the narration first, because then it would make more sense.
Now, as far as that original version, is that actually, because I was having problems trying to find that. Is that available on DVD or something, or I don't even know where you'd find that. From what I've read on the internet, it is available. I just don't know where to find it at, where it's located.
I don't know.
No. Oh well.
I'm actually not sure, because I watched the Final Cut one on Netflix.
Okay. Yeah, and when I saw this movie, the originally I saw it back on commercial television back in the 80s or 90s, and I saw it at the theater in the mid 90s because there was I think I've said this before, the Uptown Theater in Connecticut Avenue in Northwest DC ran a bunch of classic movies one summer, and this is one of the ones they ran. And when I was there, they ran, I don't know if it was the final cut, it was that or one though, like the director's cut or whatever, which had that was very similar to this one. The happy ending was removed and the narration was gone. So that's the second time I saw it. And I may have seen it once or twice since then. So, but I don't. I have seen the other one a couple, maybe at least once or twice. So, but Definitely the very first time I saw it was there. So I'm just, like I said, one of the sources I watched on YouTube said it's definitely available. I just don't know where it's at. So obviously you can find it, I assume. So
You might have to buy it on YouTube for like the first one, I guess.
yeah, and the copies that are on the internet on YouTube that people have uploaded are pretty clean. So I assume it's not like, because usually if they're like fuzzy, that's been down like something from years ago. It looks like it's still available, readily available. They got it from somewhere pretty easy. So
Hmm.
now, as far as this scene right here, this is one of a lot of people, including myself, find this to be one of those powerful speeches. It's very short. How did you feel about this speech that Roy Batty here said about life?
I was a little confused and he seemed a little deranged.
Oh,
But I mean, I can see how it would be very meaningful and deep just because I guess maybe words from a deranged-ish person are a little more meaningful sometimes. Does that make sense?
yeah. The Roy Batty himself helped in writing the line, so it was apparently not Roy Batty, the actor. I forget the actor's name. I use the character's name. Whatever, I forget the actor's name. Uh, there's a video of him on YouTube where he said that he didn't like the original line, so he partially rewrote it to what it actually is. It's very very sweet, very simple, and very a lot of people, like I said, including myself, find it very powerful. So, you see, I can play just a short bit of it here.
All those moments will be lost in time, like tears in rain.
Yeah. So, it's very simple. Like I said, it just summarizes life and all the everything that you experience will never be experienced again. But they were there, and you had the chance to experience it. But once you're gone, no one will ever know that they existed. Essentially, something to that effect.
Yeah. I think a few months ago I kept thinking about death as a concept, kind of a little tiny existential crisis, maybe from staying inside for too long. And so I don't really like thinking about it anymore because it made me really sad. And whenever I looked at my parents, I got really sad. And whenever I thought too hard about what I was doing, I got really sad. So I don't know. It just kind of makes me sad that everything will end eventually. So
I got you. Yeah, it's kind of a depressing thing, but that's yeah. Okay, so you understand. Obviously, you do. You understand what the meaning of that was about. So
yeah, with ADHD, you can't really like control what your brain thinks about, and sometimes it just hyper fixates on something, and you're like, why are we thinking about death at 9 at night? Nighttime, I should be asleep. I shouldn't be thinking. It's ridiculous. But
uh-huh. Was there anything else in the movie that stood out to you?
I really liked like the visuals. I thought they were so interesting. That's kind of the main thing I was paying attention to because I didn't really understand what's going on. But I really liked how futuristic everything was and how it was like, I don't know. I think every futuristic world is so different. Oh, I really liked that one scene where he was zooming in on the picture.
Oh,
That was funny. That because I was like, he thought that, or I guess the director thought that might be realistic for 2019.
yeah, that's one of the biggest gags that people like to talk about. How if you actually zoom in on a picture, it gets in real life it's going to become so pixelated you can't see anything. But yeah, in this picture, it just keeps on. It stays nice and clear all the way in. Yeah.
Yeah. I was also thinking about how they did that because I was like, if they zoom in on the picture, obviously that doesn't happen in real life. So they had to probably set up a camera and take individual pictures for all the different. That must have took so long to take individual pictures for every single like time he zoomed in or whatever.
Yeah, it was like a three-dimensional picture. Yeah, because every time he moved in, it was like it would change an angle, and he could move around objects a little bit. So
yeah, so that must have taken a really long time. And I just think it's interesting to think about how that kind of scene is created.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, yeah. And the fact that there's I know there is technically during the 80s at this time period there was some really basic CGI. So I don't know if there was any actual, but most obviously there's no sophisticated CGI in this movie at all. So and it's really all this the effectionists have really done well. I agree with what you're saying. The visualization, this right here, the hotel, that's a real hotel by the way. I don't know what the name of it is, and I think it still exists today. So they just made it look really dark. They did a really good job of making everything really eerie and dark in it. So I thought that was pretty cool. I saw a special one time that showed where it's at. The other things, as far as the visualizations, the city, um, the model, everything that he's flying through, those are all models, and they look so good. I mean, it doesn't look like a fake model. It looks real. It looks really good.
Yeah.
So, and of course, so one of the images they show is Atari. When this movie came out, Atari was very big. That's kind of funny that they showed that. I do know in the sequel, Atari does make an appearance again, like as an advertisement. But of course, Atari doesn't really exist as a major thing. Back in '82, it was very much a very popular item, so it would stand out more back then. So,
Hmm.
what was I going to say? This one image at the very beginning, I know it's not really the movie itself, but this image right here of the tree being created, this was a very common thing. Well, not common. You'd see it periodically back in the '80s. They would take a basic image of something and then create a monochrome version of it like this. And stuff like that at the time looked really cool. Nowadays, it just doesn't seem like that interesting. But back then, it was kind of cool. It was like really artistic. I thought it was a kind of artistic way of doing things. EA, which is a gaming company, they did something kind of similar with their image at the time. It was like three objects, like a pyramid, a sphere, and a cube, if I remember correctly. And it was similar to this. It was like something that was generated by a computer like this. And at the time, it, like I said, for me, I thought it was kind of cool. They've done away with this kind of art, if you could call it that. But it just, for me, it just brought back the memory of like you used to see that kind of stuff back in the '80s. It was kind of like, because computers were still in their infancy as far as being used by the general public, so not hardly anyone actually used them. So the idea of seeing that was actually really cool, because it was like it was created. It looks like it was created by a computer screen at the time, which were all monochrome. That, you know, like, so you basically have black and green, and it just represents that kind of era.
Yeah, that kind of reminded me of what was it called? Jurassic Park. I don't know why, but I feel like maybe Jurassic Park was one of those movies that I watched as a kid that was like I really saw how computers were in the 80s for like the first time, and I saw it pretty often because I really liked those movies. And so whenever I see an image like that with the green tree thing, it just kind of reminds me of Jurassic Park. So
Really interesting. There's a scene in Jurassic Park at the time where he's looking on a computer screen and he's talking to somebody through a computer, and you can see them on the computer and they're talking back and forth. And that was not actually a thing at the time. It was actually added for the movie, which I always found was really interesting. Do you know what I'm talking about? There's like
I think so. Yeah, I feel like a lot of movies have done that where they kind of predict that we'll be able to FaceTime.
hmm and it was done pretty well, because later on you could actually do that. So
Yeah.
it looked pretty good. The only screen in Jurassic Park that was kind of hokey was when the young girl, when they're trying to rescue them from the velociraptors, and she's like moving around on the screen. There's like a three-dimensional thing, maze she has to move through. Do you remember that?
I think so.
Like later on in the movie, that part didn't make any sense. But the rest of the computers, yeah, looked pretty good. So it's just, she was like they were being attacked in this room and she was trying to unlock the doors, and she was like moving her mouse around, and there's this three-dimensional screen she had to go through, and it was like so slow. I was like, what is this? That didn't look real at all. That was just made for the movie, but the rest of them were pretty good. So
Right.
if you saw it, you probably know what I'm talking about. So, also in the movie, I'm sorry, in the book, this scene where he tests her, the replicant, these lines that are read back and forth with each other are almost word for word from the novel, just in case you're wondering. So he asks her the questions, and then she says, "Are you asking if I'm a lesbian?" You know, that line right there. That's all from the novel, in case you're wondering. So
Oh, that's cool.
yeah, and the novel itself came out in 1968. One of the things about the novel is that in the novel, there are there had been a major nuclear war prior to this, because in 1960s, everyone was thinking about atomic and nuclear wars. So it makes sense that at the time the book came out, that would be a prominent theme of the story. Um, in the movie, no war has actually taken place. People are just leaving the planet, and the planet itself is becoming overpopulated. But in the because there have been such a major devastating war, most of the animals are dead, and so the idea of owning an animal, regardless of what it was considered to be very high class, so to speak. So if you didn't own an animal that was alive, you owned one that was basically an android, or what they call a replicant in the movie. So uh, the in the book, Deckard owns a goat, which sounds kind of weird, but he owns a goat in the book, and I don't remember if it was a replicant or if it was a real goat. But owning any, like I said in the book, owning any animal is considered precious or high scale, because there were so few animals left, so you could take care of that animal. So
Oh, I
and
thought it was because they finally saw the problem with, owning exotic animals and stuff, and they just finally left them alone.
unfortunately, in the book, most of the animals are dead or extinct. That's why it's
Dang
so
it.
tragic. No, the reason I bring that up is because there are a couple of animals in this that are replicants. They don't really, like, you can see that owl. That's what caught my attention. There's an owl in this scene. I forget where it's at. Right
Yeah,
there.
the owl and then that snake in that
Mhm.
one scene. She was like, "Of course I don't own a real snake."
Right, and they don't really emphasize that in the movie, but that's basically what it means in the novel. So, um, and this scene right here, I always thought was pretty cool, with the sun coming down and the thing. That was also pretty. Where was it? That right there. I thought that was done really well. It just looks cool to me. So I can't
Yeah,
describe. I have no other word to describe it except it looks cool. So
it does. It does. Looks hot though and kind of dry. I wouldn't want to be there.
yeah. Um. Yeah. That was. I think that's about it. I can't think of anything else. I think I covered all the things I wanted to discuss about this. I'm zipping through real quick just to see if I see anything else. Oh, the death scene where he crushes the guy's skull and puts his thumbs through his eyeballs. It was
Ew, yeah, I close my eyes. Nope. Ew, gross.
yeah. And then the other guy who's 25 years old, whose age I forget, Sebastian, I think is his name. He gets killed, but they don't show it, so you don't get a chance. I'm sorry.
Ew.
Sorry.
Yeah.
But he
Ew.
definitely dies, because if you're listening very carefully, shortly after that, they said his body was located. I don't know if you heard that scene. So they don't show up, but he just runs off and he gets killed. All these scenes are just done so well with the. It's hard to believe that how well they did this. So
Yeah, especially for the time. Like, it looks very, very good. The visuals are incredible.
as with a lot of other movies, this was very inspirational for a lot of other movies that came out after this. So you'll see a lot of other dark movies that came out that had this kind of look after this, copying this.
Right.
And also, what I found kind of interesting, I don't really remember this, but when the movie came out, I wanted to see it, but I didn't get a chance to see it because for whatever reason we didn't see it at the theater. But I do remember that it was, from what I remember, it did not receive a very good, it did not get a very good reception. It did not do well at the theaters. It wasn't until afterwards that it became popular. So,
Interesting.
and I think yeah, that's about it. So yeah, as far as the movie, so did you enjoy it?
I liked the visuals. I was okay with not really understanding what was going on. Now that it makes more sense, I might, maybe in like a few years, I might watch the original so I can actually understand what's going on through all of it. So,
Yeah, I've always enjoyed this, and yeah, I agree. This probably would be a good idea to watch it with the narration on.
yeah. What would
So,
you rate it?
Oh, so this I'd probably rate it like a 9 out of 10.
I would go a solid 7. I could see how it would be a 9 if I knew it was going on though.
Okay, that's cool. And as I said, James Edward almost is. Well, I didn't say this, but he's definitely one of my favorite actors out there. So it's so interesting to see his performance because this and another things that he's been in, he's just so radically different. I will say this: I did watch a couple of people review this, people that were basically like you, who had not been born yet when this came out, and they saw it at a later date. They said it was just too boring. So,
Huh.
did you think it was boring at all?
Not really. I like the visuals a lot. I don't really know. I mean, I'm easily distracted by shiny objects and like that kind of person, so maybe the visuals were enough. Maybe for some people, visuals aren't really enough to hold their attention. Maybe they're more auditory, so, you know.
The other thing I was wondering about is because comparing this to the movie we saw last week, which was 2001, it seemed like they're implying that it was boring. Like you and I thought that was just dragged out a little bit too long. We both thought that one was just the pacing was just too slow. That's the way they were describing it, like how we described that movie. So,
Huh. Yeah, that's a little extreme. I feel like that's last week's movie was like very purposefully very drawn out. And this one, I don't think the pacing was off.
okay. Yeah, I never did either. In fact, I thought it was pretty good. So, and okay. So that's a movie I would definitely recommend this for people to watch. And yeah, like you said, probably a good idea to watch with the narration and probably when they at the very end of the movie, if you want to, if you can, as they're walking out the door together, hit pause and don't watch the happy scene at the very end.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually like probably the perfect way to watch it.
Yeah. And I think that's about it. From what I understand, there was a lot of meddling with the studio executives, and that's why Ridley Scott decided to come out with his later version and everything. But then when he came out with his version, I know I'm repeating this part, but then there was a controversy with him and Harrison Ford about if Deckard was actually a replicant or not. So controversy after controversy, and it just creates more controversies. It just keeps on going. So
All right.
cool. All right. I'm going to go ahead and bring up our question here. Give me a second. Let's see what kind of response we have. 81 votes so far, and we got overwhelmingly 80% with yes. Do you like trying new foods often? And give an example. We got Sandeep Mohanar says maybe, but I like to eat different types of Indian foods. And by the way, he's from India, just in case you're wondering. So
They are delicious. Sometimes they make my tummy upset, but that's just because spicy foods sometimes make my tummy upset. So
I'm not. Can you name of any? I'm not sure if I've had any Indian foods. Can you think of anything off the top? Like anything that might be? I might know. I'm trying to think. I can't.
samosas, I've had those. They're so delicious. A little spicy, but they're so delicious. They're not very good for you, but they are very good. They're like little triangles. You can get vegetarian ones, or at least the ones that my friend from college, when I actually lived there, she was Indian, and so she would bring food that her like parents would give her, or that she would order from a restaurant or something. And I had samosas before, but she actually had some from a like traditional Indian restaurant, and they were delicious. So I think they were vegetarian ones. But yeah, that's like the first thing that comes to the top of my head.
Okay. Well, when I hear of Indian food, I think of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Have you ever seen that?
I feel like I've seen parts of the Indiana Jones movies, but I don't think I've ever seen. I think I saw maybe the whole first one, but it's not really for me personally.
There's a scene where they eat some food and they eat chilled monkey brains,
Ew.
and then they eat eye soup, and it comes out and there's like a bunch of eyeballs in it. I don't know if any of that's real, but um, here's the I won't really go through it, but you can see right here, you can see the monkey head, and that's the chilled monkey brains that she's being
Yeah.
introduced to right there. So
Yeah, no, I don't think so, because I know that a lot of Asian cultures very like highly value animal life. So I don't think that would be I mean,
Yeah.
maybe it is. Maybe it is in some places, but I don't know if that would be super popular. I've never heard of that in like actual real life, you know.
Right, and then if you look at this one right here, it says this one actually says, "Is the food real?" This scene right here, I forgot about this one. They cut open a snake, and these little tiny snakes come out, and you're supposed to eat the live snakes as they come out.
Ew.
I don't. I don't. Anyway, yeah. If you have I would assume you probably would not like that scene. It's probably something, if you ever see the movie, just avoid it altogether. So. All right, thanks everybody for watching, and like I said, I recommend the movie, and we'll be back next week. Anything you'd like to add before we say goodbye?
Thanks for listening. Bye.
All right, have a good one.